Hello, welcome to Soberish. My guest here today, you may recognize his voice from the reality transurfing videos I made everybody listen to until I tracked him down on social media. This is Bootsy Greenwood, aka Owen Hunt.
Yep, that's right. It's
traveling, reality transurfing.
Sure.
What is the word I'm looking for? Not entrepreneur. What is it? The person when you go to the embassy, they are the
ambassador.
Ambassador.
Maybe?
Traveling.
Reality transurfing ambassador.
Transurfing ambassador.
Okay, I'll
That's
go with
your new
that.
job title.
Cool.
Yeah, it would have been so cool if I spit it out in a timely fashion, but it's me. I haven't stopped moving in 3 days. My life has been. I landed from the East Coast. Oh, I did have one night to watch all of Undone, which is about reality transurfing, kind of.
Really?
I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it's about jumping timelines and telekinesis and shit. And then I have just been recording podcasts, editing podcasts, doing readings. I think I did 6 readings Friday, 7 readings Saturday, recorded the episode with Water Baby Saturday night. Sunday, I had a shit ton of readings again, had to pick my kids up at LAX, try to play mom a little bit, and then ran out of time editing the Water Baby episode. It was actually an hour and 40 minutes, and I had to cut the last 40 minutes. I'll put it out as bonus content at some point if I get 5 minutes to fucking edit it. And then put that together. It was so late last night. By the time I got that put together, I just realized I have to edit an episode of Mormon and the Meth Head. It'd be funny if I didn't let you talk and I just complained about all the work I had to do. Anyway, 3 readings today, 2 doctor's appointments for my kids. One of them had to get blood drawn and shit, and then you have to take them to get boba, right? Because they had to get blood drawn, and then I got back home, and then I had readings, and then I'm recording a podcast, and then I have to edit a podcast, and then I think I have to get on a plane tomorrow or something. No, I have to pick someone else up from the airport. Anyway, how are you?
Oh man, I'm chilling.
Yeah,
I'm chilling. Yeah, I haven't been doing much really. Well,
you've been traveling a lot.
We've been busy. We're out here running a compound and shooting a bunch of stuff for transurfing and. I was in Spain for a month, on a cruise ship, just emceeing for Bon Jovi's cruise and
holy shit,
Bell and Sebastian's cruise. And I don't know, dude. I don't even know how the hell all of that happened, to be honest.
So you're transurfing.
I guess so. I guess that's what it's called.
Yeah.
When crazy shit happens that there's no way you could ever make it happen, but you sort of just pick the best choice in the moment and just keep going.
Yeah. Holy shit.
It's weird.
You're probably the best one for, because I talked about reality transurfing on so many podcasts for so long.
Thank you for doing that.
I actually have read 3 pages of the book, which is kind of my thing, is to skim something and then talk like I'm an expert about it.
Sure.
I think I'm just a pollinator. I'm an ascension pollinator. My job is to just tap it, because the randonauts people act like I've done more than one of those. They're just tell me about the different things you've gone on. I was I did the one that I talked about on several podcasts, and I just pollinated this group with this group, but then I moved on to something else.
That's
and
cool, though.
I got what I needed out of it. But the majority of my reality transurfing knowledge comes from an article, a Medium article.
That was a really good article. I know which one you're talking about. It was
comprehensive.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he crushed it on that one.
And then the book, it's next to my bed, as you see.
It. Yeah.
But I use it like an oracle. I just spin it and then pick a page, and that's the page I'm supposed to read.
Well, you live a different type of reality, than I do. I'm a very mental person, and I'm super curious, and I have to be able to fucking explain everything, which is total bullshit.
Right.
But I can't help it, right? It's like a compulsion for me.
Yeah.
So
it's so weird to hear you talking into my headphones right now, because that's what I did do, is I did listen to it. I would put it on at night and go to sleep, and then it would autoplay through your videos.
When did you know you wanted to listen to it? That it had something to offer? Did you know right off the bat, or what flagged you that this was something cool potentially? So
in 2017, I was on stage doing This Is Not Happening, and I kind of, I guess now I know, had kicked into a new, I was ascending again. And so a lot of my life was in upheaval, but I tell you, like, this is going to make noise, and then I make as much noise as possible. Brian, I miss my studio, but whatever.
I've already.
I felt reality as a moving sidewalk for the first time, and then was having all these experiences with this moving sidewalk, which I could now see in like my mind's eye. And then I like knew what was coming. I could feel the trajectory of it. And it was this weird sensation where nothing was a surprise anymore. And then I started having the experience of getting knocked off of the timeline that I was on. Because I was like, oh, I understand multiple timelines now. But then I was like, oh no, I'm on the wrong timeline. Because I was on a timeline where everything was happening like I knew it was going to happen, but like I was going to sell a TV show and stuff, and like I'm not on that timeline anymore.
Right.
I don't know that I don't think I care. Like
It
that's
doesn't
a
seem
problem
like
with me.
you want to be on that timeline.
That's a
does
problem
it?
with me is that if you put me on a new timeline and I see it, I'm like, oh, there's a new shiny thing. But I think I'll probably go back to that timeline
You just
at
fuck
some
around
point.
with it and just go away and then
I just feel like I feel like that timeline was like chasing a dying medium. But I at one point got knocked off of a timeline that I still wanted to be on. So I told a friend about it, and she's like, you ever heard of reality transurfing? And so I Googled it and found that article. And then that article has so many things that I had figured out about manifesting reality that I never heard anyone describe, like the want it but don't want, like the removal of importance.
Issue?
Yeah,
dude, that's fucking
And so that was
crazy.
my biggest issue with The Secret, right? Is like you got people like grinding on something in their conscious mind. They're never going to create that.
They're just
That's such a pushing
further
energy.
away. Yeah, it's weird.
So I really resonated with it, and like was insufferable for a while talking about reality transurfing. But it really like mostly there were a couple things like the wave of fortune. I could remember an experience where I knocked my podcast partner off of one of those. Where I like trauma and stuff that I was clearing was like
Induced shifts, the downward sort of version.
Yep.
They're the same thing, but one's, up
one
and the
goes
other's
on.
down.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
so, anyway, I want to have you kind of do a cliff notes of how the principles of reality transurfing, and then I want to get into Toofty. Now, Toofty, I read cover to cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, is that
I
because
saw a lot of the screenshots you posted.
Yeah.
I think Toofty is it's definitely the more advanced for sure, no doubt. And I think that's probably why you were so obsessed with it. Like RT is a foundation. It's kind of like the guidebook. It's the rule book. You know what I mean? It's like he reformulates natural law in a way that I don't think anybody's ever done before. And it allows you to, it's really quantum physics, really, right? Like it allows you to sort of just shift instead of having to like change yourself and, do rah-rah new age shit or join a multi-level marketing company or whatever, right? Like it's just like, here's a way to sort of change your relationship to reality. You say a lot that, reality is like a video game.
Right.
And I would say that reality transurfing gives you the controller.
Exactly.
And then you have to figure out what A does and all that. Like it takes some time to sort of dial it in.
Right.
But it's totally doable. And you don't have to change or, become something that you're not. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole. So let me wrap it up for you then. It's about being your most authentic self and reaching the goal that identifies you as that particular self, right? Like it's really about stepping into, like it's an idealist wet fucking dream is what it is. It's all about like being your most authentic, the purest expression of who you are, and finding the path to be able to just do that and be successful.
Right.
So I mean it goes into all these traps really, and mental prisons and weird games that we're playing emotionally, Yeah. Like I say, people put all these big fucking words on shit. It's like consciousness is just attention. That's all it is.
Right.
And, like you desire something, you push yourself away from it. There's all these all spirituality is basically emotions, right? Right. So why do we have to make it so complicated? You know what I mean? But anyway, it's just a different model. I like to think of it as like it's like kind of like a mental martial art or something, right? In a way. And I think it's pure. I think it's pure. You know what I mean? Like in itself, I'm studying it because I found it and I got obsessed with it and I made the book. Like nobody asked me to make that shit. I was just like, this shit is fucking dope. I love
feel
it.
like this is such a good example of, okay, so History of Us is you had read reality transurfing on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so at some point, I either was looking for the audiobook or Googled, I think I was trying to see like how many people know about this, and then just found that you had read it on YouTube. And so it was just easy for me to just let it play in the background. I feel like I play a lot of videos at night when I'm sleeping. I feel like it gets in what's supposed to get in. But I have a tendency to not be able to understand. I love it because you message me all the time about books and resources and stuff. I very rarely get around to looking into any of them.
I know how that is too.
But for the most part, I can't absorb something until I've already like figured it out myself. But that's the thing I love about reality transurfing is I was like, oh, this is a concept that I could never put words to, but the timeline thing was something new that I was experiencing. But so then you just read those books on YouTube, and rather than these people contacting you with copyright infringement shit, what happened?
Well, I think all these like sporadic links just started uploading and uploading downloading from my channel, the books, and then uploading that to their own. I don't really know. That's still all being sorted out. Like I'm still, in a risky situation, I guess. Like they could just be like, take those books down, and I'll be like, yes, sir, Vadim, sir, I'll take those books down. I mean, I don't know what other choice I have.
He friended me on Facebook.
He's friending everybody on Facebook. The Vadim bot, he's going around. He's like a fucking virus. No, he speaks with Renee some, so we're kind of like trying to help him, and get this idea out there. Like they've been really cool so far.
So the Transurfing, what is it? The Transurfing Institute?
Yeah, the internet, doesn't that sound so professional? We wanted to be Worldwide Transurfing Federation, WTF. But I don't think Vadim really liked that.
Okay.
So he was like, no, change that, make it something different. So International Transurfing Institute is what's on Facebook.
So is he spearheading this or he just greenlit it?
So he greenlit it. Like
Okay.
Renee was like, can we do something? And he's like, yeah, do something. So
nice.
I think we're in good shape.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. I'm excited.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he's a brilliant dude. She's met him. I can't wait to. Like, I had a dream that I met him and I was wearing just underwear. Of course, Did
you run that by him?
I don't remember in the dream. He didn't seem fazed by it,
Okay. So you put the books up, which is a great way to sync up with the reality that you want to be on, right? Also a great way to get sued for copyright infringement. So, trust your gut. Hold on a second. I turned the goddamn air conditioner on to like 60 degrees because I was like, we'll cool it off and then I'll turn it off. And then I didn't turn it off. And I'm like, oh, it's never going to stop. The entire time we're here, we're going to be frozen. So hold, please. All right, so the basic premise I'm going to butcher real quick, and then you can chime in. The basic premise is that there is an endless amount of variations to the reality that you're currently living in, and that you are free to surf onto any one that you want. And sometimes they cross over one another, and you have like a wave of luck or a wave of bad luck, and that is a more favorable or less favorable timeline bumping into the timeline you're on. Right. And there are methods to make sure that you stay on it or get off of it, let it pass like a wave. There are ways to attract the timeline that you want. Are they, for me, I experience it like ones that are similar to the one I'm on are a lot closer. So it's pretty easy to just do slight adjustments.
Yeah.
And if you want, because everyone's like, what if I want to win the lottery or be president? And it's like, first of all, get a fucking imagination. Second of all, that one's a little further away since you're currently a fucking idiot. So you'd have to go all the way from an idiot to the president. Oh, wait.
Right. Yeah. You're going to need a really nice long board.
Apparently that's a lot closer than we thought. Anyway, I made it my whole life without making a Trump joke.
Oh, damn it.
Damn it. Let me back on the timeline where I hadn't said that.
Let me tell my stupid surfboard joke. Well, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that everything already exists on the other side of this physical reality, right? Like infinity is a thing. It's real. This dude's like, look, instead of trying to make this thing or create this reality or manifest or whatever, we want to call it, just choose it from the infinite space of alternates on the other side of the metaphysical mirror, right? Like that's the gist. So it's like, instead of drumming up all of this energy, right? Because I mean, I studied all this stuff, like all the self-help stuff, all the spiritual stuff, I say all, but like I'm rounding up a little,
right?
But a lot of it, and all of it was good, but I never found something that really spoke to me like it did, and just like totally shifted the way I viewed the world, and gave me some guiding principles and an explanation for why, like an explanation for why it was so hard for me to do whatever it was that I personally wanted to. Also an explanation for how, to do positive things, because I am an idealist, right? Like, and so like I went down the conspiracy wormhole first, and I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. This sucks.
Same.
And so then, self-help and spirituality ensue, right? It's like, and then at some point I was like, well, fuck it. If you can't beat them, join them. Maybe I'll just, learn how to make money or whatever and try to make myself happy or whatever.
Right.
And that wasn't happening. So, but then I found transurfing like right after that. And I was like, this is it. This makes so much sense. Like the desire versus doubt conundrum. Like for as much desire as you have to accomplish something, that's the same amount that you doubt that you can do it. Right. Like that's the importance idea.
Okay.
So like if it's no big deal for you to get a script in the mail, but for me, like I'd be like, what? It's such a big deal.
Yeah.
I've separated myself from that by the importance that I place on it, or my desire, and which is also equivalent to the amount of doubt that I have. Now, is it like, it's really easy for me to believe that I can get on a plane and go to Spain and hop on a cruise ship. So I get to do that.
Right.
If I couldn't believe that, then there's no way I could even get anywhere close.
That makes I'm going to use meth addiction analogies here, but a lot of what I learned about manifestation of reality was just observing things in life, and a phenomenon that I've talked about on several podcasts is on drugs. The kids who were raised rich just had a different baseline than those of us that were raised poor. So we're all doing the same amount of drugs, we're all getting the same amount of police contact, we're all in the same basic boat. But these kids always ended up with cars and apartments because their perception of what bottom was completely different. Now, did any of them ever end up homeless? Yeah. But like, it was something that I watched, that when things come crashing down, I land a lot lower. And then I thought about my sister and I, raised in the same house, but I got married when I was 16 and had my first car at 16. And because I, married into it. And my sister, on the other hand, was raised in Portland with public transportation. And because I'd had the convenience of a car, I'm like incapable of living without a car. I just can't fucking imagine. So I've been like broke most of my life, and I was very broke on drugs, but I always had a fucking car. Like I just was always on a timeline where I had access to a car, because public transportation to me is just not a direct enough route. It's not fast enough. I have to wait on someone else. It just doesn't work for me.
You don't accept it into
I
your
don't
reality.
accept it. It's not my baseline.
Right.
And as I learned how to manifest, I learned how like the bottom that I will accept in my reality is so much higher than other people in my peer group.
Yep.
Because I have just kind of like, and it doesn't matter, because if you look at the ways that I've managed to have money over the years, it's not like I dropped out of school in 9th grade after not passing anything since 5th grade. You can't explain it away by anything other than it's just my exception or my expectation.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I expect to land. So that's something that I had noticed. And it's another thing when you move to LA and you're around comics in LA, and the script thing is like, who cares? The audition thing is who cares? And so it's so much easier to create that stuff, where when I lived in Delaware, I thought it was just this insane, amazing thing.
Right. Yeah. You can pull it right in.
Yep.
Well, I mean, part of RT too is like just leverage, dude. It's like, put yourself in a position where you can win. Like, why wouldn't you do that? If you're trying to be successful at, a specific thing like comedy, like don't go to Dothan, Alabama, or like freaking,
exactly,
something like that, go to Chicago or LA or New York. Put yourself in a position to win, like start there. But then you can do some pretty awesome stuff with it too, like the idea of this like alternative space, or even the alternatives flow of like, constantly choosing, right? And so when we can get into Tufty if you want, and I'm saying Tufty now, I realize, but I think
is it Tufty or Toofty?
it's Tafty, actually.
It's Tafty.
I swear to fucking God.
I've never even tried that one.
It's because there's not a letter in the name that would ever make you think that it would be pronounced Tafty. But the new book is Itfot, which is like Tufty backwards, Tafty backwards, excuse me. I'm sorry, goddess, BDSM goddess, Tafty. Yeah, so, but we can talk about it. I feel like it doesn't matter. We mispronounce stuff. I'm the king of that, really.
I mispronounce everything. Apparently, I said Nietzsche. What the fuck? How do you pronounce that word?
I don't know.
Someone was pronouncing it some way the other day that I had never heard
Nietzsche?
before.
Was it like Porsche?
Nietzsche or something.
Nietzsche
and I was like,
Porsche.
what? Listen. If you're here for fucking grammar or like, this is where you find unchecked psychosis. I can't help you with anything else. You want to correct my grammar? That's 3D shit. I don't have time for pronouncing words right. Get fucked.
Yeah, I don't either, dude. This information is more important than pronunciation.
Yeah, it's embarrassing, but
yeah, Tufty, Tafty, Toofty. I pronounced it Toofty throughout the whole audiobook, only to find out.
That's why I thought it was funny that in your group they were like, she had me until she pronounced the author's name wrong. And I was like, oh, weird. Really? I would think you would be into that.
Right.
And then you're like, I'll get in her shit. And I'm like, okay. How many times did I say Nietzsche?
I don't even remember you referencing Nietzsche.
I think I probably was talking about when I came back from the dead and that book was there. I also said thus spoke Zara, whatever. And
did I not cut that out? Like, did I embarrass you?
No, I don't care. I am known for drinking my pee. You know what I mean? I've got a pretty... I didn't have teeth in my 20s. A pretty intense level of self-esteem.
It's so cool. It's so cool. And I love everything that you're putting out too. Like, I'm so interested to talk to you about like this crazy, because like I'm very much a mental person. Like, I see these principles playing out.
Right.
But I don't like get the feel, like I don't get like the intuition and the ability that maybe you do to be able to like sort of see into this deeper reality, like, and the shifts that you're talking about and this kind of stuff. It's really kind of foreign to me, right? Like, I see these principles operating, like Advantage, which we can talk about with the Tufty thing, and several other ones, right? Like, I see this shit play out, and I can identify it, but it's more of a mental thing, really, I would say, than like even super. I don't know. I'm curious.
Oh, you haven't had your twin flame show up and rip your heart out so that you can experience things in 5D yet?
I guess not.
Okay, tight.
My astrologist.
Childhood trauma. You're not.
Yeah, I've got plenty of that. I'm dealing with that. I'm working with my astrologist on that shit. And I've got about a year and a half probably before I can really meet the right person, because I have so many fucked up programs from other crazy people that I've dated in the past. And, I mean, I love that energy, right? But Jesus, man, it did a number on me. And like, my parents are all fucked up too. They cheated on each other, a lot of infidelity and stuff. So it's in my program, and I've like even created that. I look back and I'm like, oh fuck, I kind of made that happen with my own insecurity, just blasting my insecurity.
Cancer, right?
Yeah. So I wear everything on my sleeve.
Y'all pick some women.
Yeah, tell me about it. Like, they all hate my mom, and it's like, dude, I'm not trying to fuck my mom. What are you so mad about? Like, why do you hate her? It's cool. Like, can't you just get along? Any of you?
Oh, that's fucking fantastic. So one of the things that I've talked about, this kind of, when I did the cups,
the 2-cup method,
which I think is just kind of a magic ritual to anchor in your dimension jump. When I did the 2 cups and then was waiting for that, there's my kids ruining my podcast.
They're so
I miss you, Brian, but whatever, it's fine. I don't know if I've mentioned Brian abandoned me. Do you guys remember last week when we were like, yay, Brian got a new job? Well, he just abandoned me. It's tight. Anyway, that's cool. No problem.
Oh, you just snap a photo?
Mm-hmm.
That was sly. That was impressive.
Hold on, I got to put in the caption. This is my new podcast studio because Brian sucks.
Aw, Brian. I'm such a Cancer. I'm going to like immediately like be compassionate toward Brian.
Okay, hold on. I'll change it because Brian.
I'll play, But he got a new job, so that's cool. You can make fun of him.
Abandoned me.
Happy for you, man. Way to go.
Actually, I should have tagged you in your own thing, right?
Wow.
This is nice. I'll really enjoy this when I have to.
I'm sure the listeners are really liking this. This is
I
gonna be their
edit
favorite
everything
part.
out, so it's like, I'm always like, it's fine, I'll edit it, and then
I'll
I'm like
edit it out.
so mad at myself later. I'm like, why don't I fucking? Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to do this for hours? Anyway, we're back. So it's hard because I want to talk about the same subjects with all my guests. I want to talk about the same like phenomenon, but I don't want to make my listeners listen to me tell the exact same stories over again. So
Okay, well, let's just talk about whatever.
briefly.
Yeah.
I was trying to hop to a dimension, but I had put 4 big things on the cups.
Okay.
And then at one point I can only describe it as entertaining another timeline. And this is a thing that people do all the time where things get a little rough for a second, and rather being like, I'm a person who has the ability to walk from timeline to timeline as I choose. People think, oh God, is this going to happen? As if this happening is against their, like, they have no control over that. But it's tempting, right? So I was like, oh God, what if I have to move back to Delaware? Like, what does that do to everything? I just look like a huge fraud. I'm here like, you can manifest your reality, and then now I have to go back to Delaware.
Scary?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of pressure. I hate it.
Yeah, it sucks.
And so now there's a lot of people watching me talk this shit, and I'm like, I really have no plan. I have no plan. I know because I can see this trajectory that I'm fine by September. I'm pretty fine.
I'm going to reassure you that you don't need a plan.
No, everything turned here's what happened.
Okay.
So I'm going through this breakup, which is part of one of the things I put on the cups. And then I'm like, I wanted to be financially free from my ex. And that happened very quick by like him losing his job. And then, but I didn't really have a plan for that because the breakup kind of meant that we weren't on the road. And then I just didn't have a thing. And so I started entertaining. I was trying not to because I'm pretty good at controlling my mind when it comes to manifestation. But now I'm 2 months into paying my very expensive rent this is LA, not bragging about my tiny apartment, but it's expensive here. I'm 2 months into paying this with a credit card, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this is sustainable for like 1 more month.
Maybe.
I know that something's going to work out. Right. But I need to do something. But this voice is like, what if you just end up having to move back to Delaware? Is starting to get a little bit louder. And what it feels like is that there is a timeline that's not too far away, at this point, at this moment, because I'm in kind of the void space, right? This timeline is now creeping in on me, and it's too close. It's too close. And I see people do this shit all the time where it's like shit or get off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
And so you end up kind of picking the louder timeline. And so
Yep.
In order to get rid of that timeline, I said, okay, I'll just go sell cars, right? Which is a very 2 feet on the ground. I don't need any faith to believe that I could do that. It just was a plan B to shut that timeline up. So then that time just dissolved immediately because I was like, no, I have a plan that will, like, if by the time I get back from Boise in 3 weeks, something else hasn't worked out, I will go get a job selling cars just to get rid of that timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I did that, boom, it was readings. And then everything opened up, turned Soberish, pivoted into something else. I completely found the thing I was going to do.
You avoided the energy drop.
I avoided the energy drop. So I was wondering if there was a name for that.
Well, he doesn't call it that, but that's one thing that like Renee calls it. Like she kind of like has her own lingo, underneath. I do too, because we try to break these concepts down.
Yeah.
But it would be that would be called balancing forces. You avoided balancing forces, which is the thing that happens like when you over desire something, for instance, and you have that desire doubt differential, like I was talking about. You think about it like a weather sort of thing, right? Like, except for LA, everywhere else in the world, right? It gets really hot.
Where they have it.
The water evaporates into clouds and then it rains, these types of things. Nature's always striving towards balance and it finds a path of least resistance. That's the point of reality transurfing, is to take the path of least resistance to your goal with the least amount of energy drops, right?
Right.
Like water is always trying to be flat. That's what actually makes a wave. And so as above, so below, we know in the esoteric. So like taking these like natural principles like that into account in an emotional, transactional kind of way, like when you have all this excess desire or excess potential, it summons the winds of balancing forces, as he said. And so it creates an energy drop. It's like a differential in the weather, right? Like that's why we have these thunderstorms.
Okay.
And it's because of all the heat. and the pressure, the barometric pressure pushing down, up, whatever. Like,
Okay.
it's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
So there's these emotional transactions as well. So because you shifted your attention, which is all we are anyway,
Right.
to selling cars, well, that put you on a different timeline, and it avoided all this doubt and anxiety of potentially having to move back to Delaware.
Right.
And so you were able to completely like ninja out on that. You know, you just like walked to another thing because of the way you shifted your focus and attention. Had you like obsessed over that, gotten really fucking scared, it would have eventually turned into a thunderstorm or whatever, right? Like, and those balancing forces would have been like, okay, dude, there you go. You drummed up all this excess potential and the barometric pressure or whatever of it. And then boom, like storm, balance restored. So
interesting.
It's kind of funky how I don't know. I understand it more and more every day. And like, it's just so.
It's something that you kind of have to practice for a long time in order to understand, like, oh, it's
got its own lingo. Like, he doesn't talk about ego. He doesn't talk about vibration, any of that. It's not LOA. It's not hermetic. It's not self-help. It's not really even spirituality, really.
Right.
It's just like this fucking weird, like.
Here's the controls to the video game.
Yeah.
I think it plays into a lot of other stuff. So most of the readings that I do end up just kind of being kind of like a 5D update. Like, here's where your blocks are. Here's where.
Is that just like intuition stuff? Because like, I'm so blue collar. Like, I'm from Georgia, right? Like, I'm no stranger to meth. Like, that's, I grew up around, just really simple country living, and like just blue collar as fuck, like, so for me, I try and just distill everything down in the most simple way of putting it. So when you're talking about like 5D downloads and stuff, is that like is your intuition just like sharpening? Are you picking up on different?
Well, the cards are a little bit of a crutch. I'm using them less and less, or I'm actually like using more cards, but like less what the card, like
you're seeing your own definition of the card?
Yeah. Oh, by far.
Okay.
Most of the cards had to take on a different meaning because the energies that are currently in. And then like in July, a lot of the cards meant something different than they mean now because we've shifted into a different sort of energy. But 5D being the part where we all kind of merge together in the emotional space. And so there's a certain amount of like programming that needs to be cleared to get there. And then to the best of my knowledge now, the 6D downloads are all about collaboration. It's about like what you bring to the new the new world, right?
What are we gonna do?
So much easier than 5D, dude. Like, I will.
No, I love that. It's totally my heart, man.
So a lot of people's 6D stuff is about them bringing art or some type of creative, like you being an ambassador for reality transurfing would be like your 6D thing, or it's the thing you bring to assist the collective in doing their thing.
Cool.
And a lot of people, I get the Hierophant card, and the Hierophant card tells me that there is some type of religious programming, usually Catholicism. People who have been indoctrinated into Catholicism in their childhood have a really hard time jumping timelines because they've had it like ground into them that things have to be difficult and that you have to earn them,
right?
And that you have to like guilt, right? And
sure.
it's an impediment.
That's a pendulum hook, big time.
Yeah,
you can follow that all the way down.
All right. So this is a belief that things have to be more difficult than they do.
Yeah, it's really, really embedded in us from a very young age.
Yeah, I'll ask people. And so that's a lot of like what like my readings and stuff end up being is like, okay, here's the block. Because there is no reason that you can't get paid to do what you want to do.
No.
We don't get paid to do what we want to do because you've been told that your entire life.
Yeah.
And you really just have to address that programming, because I believe we hack reality, that there's a collective of people hacking different pieces of reality, but it's all construct. Nothing, aging, death, disease, fucking gender, every sort of limitation is a construct that we wrote into the game and we can hack it. And people have been hacking money for a long time. And it's a pretty easy path that's already been laid out, and you can just go do that. You can go be prosperous, but you have to work on the part of you that believes that that's not true.
Right.
And that's what stops a lot of people from going on to, I'm like, the timelines don't give a fuck.
Right.
You put all of this, like,
that's your
this
resistance.
value judgment on it, but the timelines don't give a shit.
It's your resistance to that thing that keeps you off of that track.
And it's funny when I talk about this and then the attitude from people, I say this like it's not, I get a lot of just really good feedback, but I'll see like comments sometimes where it's like, oh, then why don't you have this? Like they think that winning the lottery is the finish line or something. And it's like, I'm living everything. It's weird once you get to a point where you can pick your own adventure.
Right.
I kind of find myself wanting to pick smaller adventures and kind of like stair step up because I'm like, I'm afraid of jumping. First of all, it's easier, to level up slowly.
I recommend that approach, especially for beginners.
But to just jump to having everything all at once, then what am I going to do? That's like watching,
who wants
starting
a
with mommy porn,
bag of money on a beach.
Yeah.
And you're fucking bored in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
That sucks, dude.
Exactly.
God, I have to go home and see how many guns I can fit in my mouth and have more fun than just standing there with Rich.
Yeah.
People have hacked money and all that. And there's a lot of programs with that too. Like I'm from the South, so Pentecostal, money's bad, all of these programs just seeped right in, and so, getting around that stuff is, you do have to work at it, I think, a little bit, like those belief systems are pretty concrete, like
deep in there. I struggle with getting paid for spirituality stuff,
I do too.
I talked a lot of shit about it, and that was a big mental block for me. But then I learned a lot about vampires and narcissists.
And you know what? I'll tell you what.
Unfair energy exchanges.
Yes. And there's a fucking fox in the hen house. If there's ever been one, it's in a spiritual movement. So you got to watch out. You gotta have strong
that's what I
boundaries.
have a big problem with. Is it's like, I don't want to, I was thinking today because I feel like I am doing all of the things that the aliens said I would do, where my job was to gather basically like a crew that would shift the ages, right?
That's padded.
And
sounds pretty cool.
And it's basically what I'm doing. And then now this year has been so tight because I have gotten to, I spent 20 years on this planet being the only one of me, and now it's like there's so many of me.
I feel similar to that too. Like I was very isolated and alone, especially during that conspiracy time in my life.
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend at that point who hated me getting into that. And fair enough, I was not very positive.
She's like, it's bad enough that you have a mother.
Right. Exactly. So she cheated on me. Classic. And we broke up and like all of that. But like, coming from that place to another, I guess, like now I feel like something can be done. I don't feel helpless anymore. I don't feel isolated and scared and helpless like I used to because of some of the connections, like being able to sit here and talk to you, for instance, because now we're really starting to connect and more people, like that Facebook group that we just started is like 600 people already.
Yeah.
That's great. And people are really, reaching out to each other and they are starting to collaborate like you're talking about, which is totally my heart. It always has been. Like I'm all for that. Like people are like, why don't you do your own thing? Why don't you do your own thing? I get pleasure out of working with people. Like I enjoy it.
Same. Yeah.
It's fun. And there's nobody to high five if you're successful by yourself when you get to the top.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the point is.
Just as lonely as at the bottom. You're just by yourself.
I love it. But I thought like, how do you lead a spiritual movement without being a spiritual leader? I'm always just trying to figure out like, how do we do this completely different than it's ever been done before? Because I like the word gather more than anything else. It's just like, y'all are already the shit. You know what I mean? Like,
and
we're
it's like
just gathering
grassroots.
you.
We're coming together. We're not pushing anything.
Connecting dots.
You can't force love, Like it's very much people making a choice to be together and work together. And like that cooperative spirit is not something that you can force. And that's another big principle in transurfing too, where he talks about frailing. He talks a lot about like
frailing. I had a hard time understanding.
Sure. I think I can break it down a little bit. So frailing is like, give the thing to the person, fulfill your inner desire, whatever that is. And then you'll basically automatically fill mine, like instead of if I tried to get you on this podcast, for instance, like we kind of played a little bit of tag,
Right.
and you were like, I can't make it. Had I been like, what the hell, Jessa? Like, I thought we were friends, and like, you're not going to have me on your podcast, or I'm not going to, because I was going to have you on again, because everybody loves you, of course.
Oh.
And anyway, so had I done that and like inner intentioned you, right? Like, and tried to physically manipulate the situation,
right,
and been like, come on, Jess, or pressured you or guilted you, even if we had gotten together, it would have sucked. You would have half-assed it. I would have, had bitterness and resentment toward you. Like, what kind of game is that? That's no fun.
Pushing energy, yeah.
Exactly. So that's like north and north of a magnet, right?
Yeah.
So if I give the thing that whatever it is that you want, which is maybe my flexibility and just honestly concern and care as a friend, like whatever, like you need to pick your kids up. I'm not fucking gonna trip. You know what I mean? Like, why would I do that? I'm just like, yeah, whatever you need. Maybe we can fit it in later in the week. It's cool. And look, it worked out. And now I'm here. So I'm really happy because I really wanted to
I didn't know
meet you.
I was supposed to do your podcast though, because I was like, yeah, come over, going to do mine.
No, that's fine. I'm happy. I'm so stoked to be able to. So this might even be better than what I initially had in mind.
This is good because I think the people that listen to Soberish would love to know that there is a reality transurfing podcast. Where do they find that?
Yeah, everywhere. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. We have Transurfing TV also, which is like, we'll put out like random videos on there, just teaching some of the concepts, but it's mostly just Renee and I. She's my podcast partner, and she's like certified by Vadim, all this stuff. And so like she has been studying this stuff for like 5 years. She's got this whole like notebook. And so we've been learning, and I just became like official, right? Like I'm like, what do you call it? Like, what in the church they call it something like
you're ordained. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm an ordained like transurfing person now or whatever. But we do a show called Transurf and Chill, based off the Netflix parody. And then I host the podcast too, where I have people on as guests. I just had Karen Rontowski and Terry Huberman on.
I just did a reading for Terry today.
Dude, that's so funny.
And she was like, I said, you're in a reality transurfing. It was just in the notes, and she was like, yeah. And I said, I'm doing an episode with him tonight. And she was like, I just saw him the other day. And this is like, we live all over the country and we're all in this tiny,
it's so
I love
weird.
it.
Yeah. The whole way this whole thing I was in Spain. And so Renee, she hit me up like a couple of months ago, and we've been trying to get something together, and it just hasn't been clicking. And we've had all these people, and like the Fox in the Hen House example that comes from direct experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, so don't be guarded, but like just have firm boundaries. Like that's healthy and it's okay. But yeah, like the spiritual sort of thing and collectives and all that kind of stuff. I just don't think we're quite evolved enough yet.
It's pretty easy to get corrupted by ego. Absolutely.
To be able to do that. So have firm boundaries, all that stuff. But anyway, so we learned. And so, about a month ago, there's like 4 of us now. It's like Renee, Damien, Jin, who's from Amsterdam, and myself. And so we're kind of like all sort of just working together as a little bit of a collective, trying to bring this stuff out.
Yeah.
And do it in a way that Vadim would be cool with, like there's been a lot of people talking about transurfing. And I think he's like, well, look, dude, if you're going to teach my method, like I kind of want it done a certain way.
Right.
So, we've been doing that. And so, yeah, Transurfing TV, I'm talking a lot, but Transurfing TV.
No, it's good. I talked through my whole last guest and I regret it.
And then I have my own YouTube channel as well, where I basically cry on video every day. No, not really. I'm no Alex
Do you
Jones.
really?
No, not really. But I have been making some pretty real stuff, like where I'm like, dude, nobody promised you'd be happy. Like you want to be happy, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Like content is fair. That's a fair thing to ask. But it's like, look, man, we all get disappointed. We all, suffer a bit. These things happen no matter who you are. Like there's such a drummed up like bullshit self in this movement of like, I'm always happy. Look how shiny I am.
I call it toxic positivity.
And I awful.
The Love and Light crew are not my shit.
Bag, dude.
And,
I can't do it.
I'm probably going to end up having to eat those words at some point, but I just feel like it's fake. First of all, there's another thing too.
It's repressed. I mean, I grew up in the church, so I can spot repression. And I'm from the South. We have a lot of guilt down there. I can see it, guilt and just false. I don't know. Like it's hypocrisy.
It is. So I talked about this a little bit on a couple episodes, but because we are ascending and going to a higher level of consciousness, you get these downloads. And with these downloads come this bliss, and you're nailing it. And you're like pink clouding it. And you're just like floating almost. And you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But we aren't there yet. We're not collectively there yet.
Right.
We're headed to something like that. But then you get like kind of pulled back down to the ground, and it's time to integrate that stuff. But what happens is people have this moment of bliss. Then they have to go back to integrating. And then you have these fucking quote unquote spiritual people, which it's fine. Everybody's on their different trip. Like I said, like they're different tribes. The tribe that we all belong to, it has to do work. And so I know some people that are spiritual, and I've had to have this debate with multiple people in the last month, which is because I must do this. Let other people have their experience. And if you have something to offer it in a very like, put it on the table and let them pick it up.
Yep.
But this is a personal experience that you have to do for yourself. And especially if you're trying to talk people out of their feelings, you really need to stop and examine yourself for a minute. And this is something I'm extremely guilty of, because 2 years ago, I was only at 4D, and there is no hierarchy there, but like we were all collectively kind of processing things from the mental space. And so from the mental space, it's like, forgive the people that hurt you, put yourself in their shoes, objectivity, whatever. And then 5D comes along and is like, nope, okay, drudge all that back up. Now you're just going to honor your pain. And it's just pain. It's just raw, unbridled pain. And it's triggers and triggers and triggers. And these triggers make you act crazy. And it's the work. It's the work. And to then look at yourself. When I'm curled up on the floor having an anxiety attack, I'm not any less evolved or ascended than the days where every single thing I do lines up perfectly. I'm manifesting my reality. Sure. It's actually probably more spiritual because I'm doing my fucking work.
I'm with that, dude. It's fucking genuine. You're being real. We are here to experience pain.
Right.
We chose it, I think. You know, like I won't say that I know that for sure, but I think we chose it, and I think it's good to honor that pain. That's good. That means you're growing. Yeah. That means you're being fucking honest with yourself, you know? Like,
if you have chosen to be a part of taking this planet from 3D to 5D, you have most likely, and beyond, you have most likely signed up to be someone who was born into a very painful childhood, had a lot of painful life experiences, made a lot of painful mistakes, had a heavy karmic load, and you chose to transmute that lead into the gold of higher consciousness. And that is fucking work. And judging yourself because you haven't gotten anything done, but be anxious and depressed. Well, look back to April. I tell people, because April was a big, a lot of things went retrograde and shit. Look back to April. Are you more evolved? Have you healed a lot of wounds? Have you figured a lot of things? Did you identify a lot of stuff? Well, then thank you, because you did that work for the collective, and that is spiritual as fuck. Mm-hmm. Now, some people, their job is to anchor 5D by just being up there all the time. Well, they should just thank those of us that are transmuting pain, Right. But don't tell me. And I have several people an amazing amount of people in the last couple of weeks tell me like, well, you can just be done. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. I've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah, I'm aware that I could just be done. But like, I came here for a group. I keep seeing this sign, this billboard everywhere that says, none of us are well until all of us are well. Yeah. And that's it. Like, until we're all there. I used to have this argument with my ex where he was like, you know how to do all this stuff. You know how to manifest reality. Fuck everybody else.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, I want to live in the new world. I don't care. I don't want to live in the shit world and just be able to create something great for myself. I'm not a fucking reptilian. I am kind of a reptilian hybrid, apparently.
By the way.
Yeah?
I found them.
You found them?
I found them.
Oh, we'll have to discuss that.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
We got to go into Tufty a little bit. But.
Yeah, I want to go into Tufty. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that somebody needs to understand reality transurfing before they can master Tufty?
Yeah. I think you do.
Tafty?
We're
just fucking... She's been 3 names so far on this episode.
It depends on where you're at. I won't say that for everybody, but I would recommend understanding reality transurfing first, because
the emotional
it really
stuff.
is the remote controls.
Yeah.
I mean, Tafty, or Tufty, or what the fuck? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a different metaphor, a lot of the same ideas, different metaphor. So instead of infinite, infinity being on the other side of a mirror, it's like every single film roll exists in infinity, and we're each living our own movie, and the perspective of that and how that works as a metaphor. It's more advanced, and there's definitely some spots where people could get tripped up and confused. It's written funny. So if that's your introduction to Vadim, it's going to be like, why is this
I have to
bitch
explain
yelling
to
at me?
people, anytime you read something from a channeled person, they're weird over there. I don't know. Their sense of humor is always weird.
I don't know. He's Russian too. I don't know.
Sometimes my aliens say dear ones, and I'm like, oh, can we fucking not? For the most part, they're not dorky. There's one, I guess.
Are you cheating on me with Esther Hicks? What the fuck is going on?
It's like, every once in a while. Usually they just are kind of smart asses, but every once in a while I get a dear ones, and I'm like, can you not? I don't need this shit. Courting reality is like courting a new dude you just met, and you're like, or woman.
It is.
That's how you should treat manifesting reality.
Really good. Yeah, you should take your time.
So if you start texting him like crazy and thinking about and coming at him with that
that's
intensity,
smart. That's a great metaphor.
It's a magnetics game, right? So you want to attract. And a lot of the energy that people go after, this is why I fucking hate The Secret, is because you're basically telling people to obsess and consciously think about something that they want. It's a pushing energy. That's how you push. Energy. Imagine if a person you just started dating, you went to their house and they had cut up a bunch of pictures of you, and every day they would look at it while they brush their teeth. I don't know. I would be like, I don't think I want to date you. You're fucking scary. That's how reality feels about your fucking vision boards.
Yeah, it is. And
you can make a vision board, put it in your attic. And
that's great too, the pushing thing, because I guess in the Tufty example, there's a little bit of pushing because you project your what you want ahead, but you also pull the film roll toward you.
Yeah.
So it's much less of a push and more of and not pull in a selfish way, but you're just
attracting,
you're bringing it to you. Yeah.
Going after it.
Exactly. It's like your goal and yourself sort of meet halfway. That's the sort of RT method, right? You and your goal are meant for each other. It's like you're the perfect key that unlocks this door.
Yep.
And you are drawing that door to you, as well as taking action steps, because we don't just fucking sit on the couch and just visualize stuff.
Right.
Dreams don't come true, right? He makes a huge distinction about intention and all of that.
Another reason I hate vision boards is it's like, I'm just gonna put some batshit thing on this vision board and then do nothing to get to it.
I don't even do any of the slide stuff in RT. I just choose advantage. So
my favorite Tafty Toofty principle is play the character of the thing that you want.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of screenshots of that, and that's exactly right. You're pulling material on these slides that are closer and closer to this film roll, and you're projecting, with your energy, and that's what the plate or the plat's for, or whatever, right? It's supposed to sort of lock in to outer intention and really, really light up that area of the metaphysical world, or the space of variations, as he calls it. And so you light that area up, and then you pull the film roll toward you, and you take action steps. Imagine that. And as you're continuing to add material to these slides. Now, I don't do the slides hardly any, because it's like, I feel like it's really easy. It's because if you've done a bunch of this shit, you know how easy it is to do it and be like, oh, fuck, now I'm trapped in this slide that I created, and maybe it's not exactly where I want to be. I've sort of been flying blind lately, and it's actually better than having a plan or putting a slide together, having a determined outcome, because it's quantum. Think about it like this. We can't take ourselves out of the experiment. There's either particles or waves at the basis of reality. Alan Watts said wavicles. Let's split down the middle, truth in the middle. But you can't do that. You have to choose either waves or particles. And the experimenter of the experiment always proves himself right. So if you choose advantage when a situation presents itself to you, it's an advantage. If you choose disadvantage, it's a disadvantage. So we just overlay this particle and wave sort of phenomenon with positive or negative.
So this is from the Jessa Reed Guide to Always Winning, is what it was called on Mormon in the Meth Head. Every single time that something happens to me, even if it appears to be bad, I assume that it is in my best interest. Now, that said, I do play my character sometimes.
Yeah.
So you will hear me bitching about things sometimes, but
it's fun. It's a game though.
I really don't give a fuck.
Right.
I mean, if you really get down to the core of it, outside of right now letting myself feel feelings from trauma and past relationships and shit where I got fucked up, I'm like forcing myself to have that full experience because I'm trying to learn how to have feelings. But when my car got stolen, I was so positive, even though I had no game plan for how I was going to fix this. I didn't have a fucking job, so I'm going to have to get a new car. But when my car got stolen, I was so positive that it was in my best interest, because that's just what I assume every time something happens, that the cops started to suspect that I stole my own car, because I just was not
that delusional.
Somebody walked into my house, stole my purse, all my money, my credit cards, my ID out of my house, my car keys, then went down and beeped my 1-year-old very nice car and took it. And I had nothing. And I was just like, I guess I'll get an electric lock for this door or whatever. And the cops were like, have you been making the payments? I'm like, yeah, I've been making the payments. And they're like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, no, I'm not answering that. Guess what? It worked out in my advantage. It like completely worked out. I got brand new sunglasses, brand new nice purse. I got a brand new car that was actually smaller, and I didn't need how big that other car was. Everything worked out to my advantage, because it always does. So every time something happens, I write it into the script as, this is in my best interest. It's always in my best interest.
That's the choice that you make. So when he says, I'm going to teach you how to choose, that's what he means. So we talk about manifesting and all this stuff, and that's fine. Whatever vernacular, don't give a shit. But like, I like the word choice a lot, because you are choosing. In that moment, you have an opportunity. Are you going to flip the fuck out, be binary, either react one way or another, like a shellfish or like a fucking snail or whatever the metaphor is? Or are you going to see a broader perspective? See, Tufty is a goddess who's been here 1,000 times, and she's like, look, dude, you guys are fucking up. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah. And so the general premise, real quick, of Tufty Tafty is life's a movie.
Right.
And that you cannot change the script, and people waste so much time trying to change the script, but you can change the premise of the movie, which she calls the reel. And so you can set your intention, because you are simultaneously an actor in the movie and also the projector. So you can change what the movie's about, but then you don't get to micromanage the details of it.
Right.
I kind of live my life by this principle. I have been manifesting reality with different methods for a long time. And one thing, like I did the 2-cup method, and I put those 4 big things on, and everyone's like, you have to put no chaos, otherwise it's going to come via chaos. And I'm like, yeah, well, someone has to watch this movie, right? I'm not going to make the movie boring. I'm not a little bitch. I can handle it coming via chaos. And so it comes via chaos, man. And that's the fun of it, is to be like, I want to manifest this thing.
I like
and then
a little drama.
Then the tower moment comes. Everything's on fire around you, and it's like, don't chicken out, don't chicken out, don't chicken out, don't chicken out, don't chicken out. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I'm going to be fine. I know it's going to be fine. I know it's going to be fine. And at the very last minute, it turns, because you're playing this game of chicken with reality, and I love it.
Yeah, that's what he calls hide and go seek. Like the universe plays a game of hide and go seek. This is why I think a lot of creatives lose it, is because they start on a vision and they build it up, and things start going well, so they start to catch that little wave of fortune, right?
Yep.
But then something goes a little bit different than the way they see it in their head.
Yep.
They have this linear fucking progression that it has to follow, because they're so smart, and they think if they do A, then so-and-so will do B, or whatever weird thing. So as soon as that goes fucking weird, that starts this downward sort of shift.
Yep.
And at that point, they oftentimes will give up on their project, and then boom, balancing forces, neutral.
Yep.
So if you instead say, well, you know what? I'm going to find the advantage in this. You don't even have to be cunty about it, right? And be like, it's an advantage. Because like, can you imagine shoving that down somebody's throat? That's the rudest, fucking most victim blaming.
Look for the advantage in your own reality.
Look for
don't
the advantage.
Impose that
Yeah,
on
don't
other
impose
people.
it on anybody else, unless they can hear the message, because it's not
Don't
for
be
everyone.
toxically positive.
That's right.
Nobody likes you.
But say, you know what? I'm going to find an advantage in this. And at that point, you've opened yourself up to find an advantage advantage in it. Whereas before, if you'd have just been like, God damn it, this sucks, and you can say that, by the way, like you can say, God damn it, this sucks. I guess I'll find the advantage, or, we'll figure it out. We'll make this work. So that's that hide and go seek. And so you have a choice there. The universe always tests you, like you're talking about, and you're just like walking through that fire, like you're not even shook, like icy as fuck. I can see it right now.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you take that step and boom, it clicks. People don't have to be dramatic. I like the dramatics personally too.
Yeah,
but
you can ask for it not to be
non-chaotic
chaos.
And you can,
you want
like
to
you
have
were saying
the
earlier,
lamest movie for the stars to watch. That's fine. We'll make the good content, and you can make stuff for network TV. That's
right?
Fine.
Exactly. Yeah, enjoy. I would have to just like rent myself out the whole time if I was doing the network thing. Like that's great payday, but I would rather
laugh
not.
tracks. There's laugh tracks on your shitty movie because you couldn't handle the chaos. Just keep that in mind, folks, when you're out there creating reality. Just kidding. I mean,
it's cold.
I just want to chime in real quick and say, because I'm talking shit about people being toxically positive. I've done it. I'm not like, let's be positive, good vibes only. I've never been that fucking insufferable, but like,
I don't see any live, laugh, love posters.
No,
on your wall here,
I'm cool,
Right.
but I also don't have any way to hang anything up. But
I see an alien poster.
I had to tape that up, and it's gonna curl up and piss me off. But this is a fan art.
signed?
I have the
Signed by
best fan art. Yeah,
That's amazing.
This is alien meat on Instagram.
That's
And she
awesome.
made me that cool thing up there too. It's like all art for my kids and her.
Yeah, they're all great pieces.
But I'm codependent. You like that for a segue? How's that for a segue?
That's
I'm
great.
codependent. And so what I've learned about myself, and since I found out I was codependent, which was June, I feel like I have to fix everybody's problem. So if you put a problem in front of me, I feel like I have to fix it. And I think the reason that people are toxically positiviting me right now is because I'm like, oh, is that what I sound like when people just want to talk about where they're at? And I'm like, well, have you read this book? So I'm learning a lot in other people's reflections. So
yeah, sometimes like I have a friend he's a comedian. He's a really funny guy, but sometimes he'll call me and he'll start just into it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, so I'll start trying to figure out his problem. But now he's been like, listen, dude, sometimes I just want to talk.
Yeah.
So can you ask me when I call you if I just want to talk or if I want to
I've been
respond?
trying to get better at being like,
He's the only friend.
Do you want a solution to this problem? Like, do you want to?
He's the only friend who's been honest enough with me to be like, dude, I just want to chat. Like, I just want you to listen to me.
I like it. That's a good energy exchange. I used to call people assholes, but I used to cultivate these relationships. That sounds like I invented that.
Asshole doesn't bother me. Like, I get a lot of questions. What I hate are like nebulous questions, like, are you having a good day? Or like, are you married? Or like,
no, but assholes are like, because that's energy transference, right? So there is if you're going to call me and dump your garbage on me, I'm going to want to talk about a solution, or I'm going to ask you to stop doing that. So that's another like boundary thing I learned this year, where it's like, or you can sign up on my website and you can just pay me to do that. And you can do that. You can call me with a problem, but just, I don't know. There's a difference between venting and energy transference.
There really is, yeah. And it's fine to vent and all of that. But yeah, just communication. I'm just so used to answering fucking questions. And it's something I never really wanted to do. Like, I don't want to answer people's questions all the time.
Yeah. I don't mind. I like it. Stimulating I don't know. I like to talk like sharing. I know about stuff that I read an article about.
I want people to figure it out for themselves, though.
Yeah. Well, that's really what has to happen now. So I usually just try to tell a story about myself if I can relate and let them pick up what they need to pick up or whatever. But I just wanted to hammer home, don't impose your awakening on other people. But then I was like, well, obviously that's driving me nuts because I've done it. I've definitely done it.
The bargaining phase is definitely the most annoying. When it comes to dealing with stuff, the 5 steps of acceptance.
Yeah.
Of the anger, the grief spectrum.
Yeah.
And I've done it in every phase of my life, Yeah. The conspiracy one was definitely the worst.
Oh, God.
How many Thanksgiving dinners have I ruined?
Dude, I was the worst. I remember showing up to my mom's house because meth is not a good phase of your life to get into the conspiracy thing. But I remember showing up at my mom's house. She thought I was dead. Like I'd been missing for years. And I showed up to her house and I remember us having this knockdown, drag out fight because I believed that the perfect storm never happened. The storm that the movie is made about. Oh. I was like, I lived on the East Coast during then. If it had happened, I don't know what the fuck. I thought everything was a lie. This is back when I stared at the sun. I thought everything was a lie because you kind of wake up a little bit and then you're like, I've been lied to. Everything's a lie. Right. I think that's what flat earth is. I mean, I guess there's probably a timeline where the earth is flat. Who gives a fuck? But it's the sensation that we're being lied to. It's the sensation that we are in some type of dome where we're being watched. Like that's not that far off, but
yeah, true. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's so destructive to your view of the world. Like you just become paranoid and you don't trust anything at that point.
Exactly.
And that's a dangerous place to be. But, you know, I don't know, maybe that's necessary for some of us at least, you know? Like I don't know if that's necessary for everybody, but I needed my reality just destroyed with a fucking chainsaw.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to look into the darker stuff and a lot of it's true and it's fun to talk about. It's interesting, but then I notice like we talk about a little conspiracies and stuff a little bit on Mormon and the Meth Head, and then I turn into a bitch in the group when people start posting about it. And I really try to figure out why do I get like this, you know? And I think it's my own, I'm insecure about people thinking I'm crazy and that I'm cultivating a group of
like
people that are unhinged, you know? Right. And so when people start talking about it, I get very triggered. But I also think it's a pendulum. I think the conspiracy theory, like we just talked about this on the last episode, but I talk about it constantly. Like this thing that happens when there's a school shooting or Trump does something fucking insufferable or whatever, this thing that we do where we all just lament for 12 hours on the internet together and then that's it. We waste all that energy talking about how powerful this pendulum is and then that's it. We don't take any action. Right. We don't shift our focus anywhere else. We just go, guns, the NRA is so powerful. They shoot again. It's never going to be any different. It's so awful. And then we forget about it the next day. And I'm like, this is bad. You guys are making it worse, you know? Or even if we don't forget about it the next day, we don't do anything. We don't shift to something more favorable. We don't entertain a timeline where the NRA isn't super powerful. We just talk about how powerful the parasites are. And I don't believe they are powerful. I believe their only power is that we believe that they're powerful. I don't think money is actually a thing. I think money is I
agree with you.
Allegory for attention. And the elite don't give a fuck about it. Ain't about money. It's
That's
about
just
attention. It's about us creating their reality.
Attention.
You have everybody on this fucking timeline creating your timeline for you because I don't think they can. And I'm like, this thing that we do sucks. You're just nailing us to this fucking timeline. Stop paying attention to it. And then people, you know, but then that just sounds like I don't want to do anything about it. And I'm like, we can do, the second there's a school shooting, there should be like, what can we do to solve this problem? And everyone shift their focus to a favorable outcome and don't give any power. Same thing with like, don't put the dude's picture. Don't make him famous. Don't make this pendulum famous. We're making it big. This fucking clown is definitely getting reelected. We have built a fucking shrine to him.
We're rewarding the worst kinds of behavior with our attention.
God, it's so frustrating. But like, this is the same thing with conspiracies where I'm like, yeah, this is a thing. All this shit exists on some timeline, but like, let's not make it power. We're not going to do anything. If you're not going to do anything. So I'm not saying don't do anything. Fucking work on the solution. If they're like, it's the same thing with money. If you're stressed out about money, don't worry. Instead, take all that extra energy that you have and just work on the solution. Right. Pay attention to the solution. Right. Every time I start to stress about money, Aaron, my partner on Mormon and the Meth Head, which is a great podcast. If you haven't started listening yet, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. It's much better than this podcast. This episode especially, he can tell when I'm stressed out about money because I'll be like, all right, we need to do this on the Patreon and then we're going to do this. And I'm putting dates together. And because that's what I do. Right. This is a second. If there's a money worry, if I get a bill that I wasn't expecting or something, what the fuck does worrying do? As the Bible says, does it add a cubit to your stature or something? Which I don't fully understand. It's math shit, but like, just work on the solution. So anyway, conspiracy theories, pendulum, right? That's just another pendulum. So I don't like to, they're fun to talk about, but if they take you into
anything is potentially damaging and honestly could drag you down to death.
Right.
Everything is a pendulum. Everything wants more and more of your attention and energy. So, the pendulum network is where it gets like super duper complicated and weird, which my mind just like, I have orgasms in my brain thinking about shit like
Cliff notes for people that don't understand reality transurfing. The idea of a pendulum is basically things that we create and then we become subjugated to them.
Right.
And the thing that really resonated about pendulums is pushing against a pendulum is making the pendulum more powerful.
So what it is a thought, an energetic thought stream, right? So take any example, sports team, religion, politics, doesn't matter. And that thought stream, it gets attention and it feeds that pendulum. So it could be something as simple as smoking. It could be, something big like the president or something like that. But however you react to it, when you give it positive or negative attention, you're feeding it. Sometimes you want to figure out what the best deal is too. And sometimes you just got to feed some of them, right? A little bit. And just try to negotiate the deal with them a little bit better. That's just kind of, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
But the point though is to really point your attention inwardly on who you are, cultivate that, be the most authentic expression of yourself, be charm. And that's where charm comes from, right? Like when your heart and mind connect and become, like you are this more authentic expression of yourself.
Right.
And at that point, your focus is there. And so it's a lot easier to not get hooked by all these pendulums that are just like, and it could be anything. It could be just like somebody calling you a name or trying to get a reaction out of you, like a quick reaction, just like pushing a button. And as soon as you react, you've given in and you could take it all the way down. Even a sports team, right? Like you could take the sports team all the way down. At a certain point, it becomes destructive. So, you become obsessed with the LA Clippers. You only buy LA Clipper stuff and clothes like that. You go into credit card debt. You lose your job. You stop going to work. You just are at home watching the LA Clippers for eternity.
Right.
And so you've gone down the path of that potentially destructive pendulum. But we have to negotiate the deal in our life and how we have a relationship to reality. Like, what do I give? How much energy do I give these certain things? You can even make like a pie chart would be good, because anything is potentially a pendulum. It's like family. Like I could take good care of my family, or I could, obsess and worry about them and have an unhealthy relationship to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what my relationship to it is. Like the thing itself is the same, but I'm destroying myself and giving away my energy.
Kind of deciding the energy exchange that you're having with it.
Exactly. That's like
interesting.
The deal.
Yeah. One thing that I started to get a little bit famous. I don't think I'm very famous, but I started to get famous enough that I had a larger than a normal person's circle of people paying attention to me. And I felt myself energetically controlling it because I couldn't deal with the idea of the pendulum swinging the other direction. And I still don't think I like fame. I don't like it. I would have loved it when I was in much more of an ego space and I needed validation. But when people are like, I love you, Jessa, that for some reason, all I feel is the potential for them to turn on me. It's weird. Yeah, I don't like it. But
I won't ever message you that I love you again.
Yeah. No, it just really doesn't do it.
What they're in love with or what they're expressing is
helpful to hear that it's helping people. I'm not taking away from that.
Sure.
But like this comedy stuff, I don't know. It's nice, but it is anxiety inducing also because I'm like, you'll all turn on me one day, and I don't know what that is, what that mechanism is, but it's scary because it's like there's this many people paying attention to everything I say. Like there's a freedom in anonymity that I didn't understand before. But so this is just a learning experience that I'm having. But I felt myself like pump the brakes on how fast that was growing last year. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, but it affected the creative projects I was working on, right? And it definitely affects my ability to sell tickets in Bakersfield, fucking California. Buy some goddamn tickets to my show, please. Anyway, I it's a long story. I tried to book a show for us in Northern California, but I don't understand geography. And so I just booked a show in Bakersfield, which is actually just an hour away from here, which is not how anything works. But anyway, nobody bought tickets. It's fucked up. And I'm going to cancel the show, but maybe not. Okay. Buy tickets.
I hope if you
live in LA, just drive to Bakersfield. I heard it's disgusting.
Dude,
anyway,
the Uber ride I had over here was an hour. Fucking drive to Jesse's show.
Yeah, exactly. So it's probably 5 hours. Anyway, listen, I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh, the aliens were like, Amy Schumer is so famous because she doesn't care how that pendulum swings. Because I felt myself holding the not letting the pendulum swing both directions. I couldn't deal with the idea of people thinking I'm crazy. I couldn't deal with the idea of people thinking I was a guru. There was a million things I didn't want, and so I wouldn't let it swing. It would swing one direction, and then I would try to hold it. And so I wasn't going anywhere. And then they pointed out Amy Schumer doesn't give a fuck if everyone hates her, because she understands that the more people hate her, the higher that pendulum swing in the other direction. And somehow, because if you pay attention to the internet, you would think that everyone hates her on the planet.
Right.
But she's selling out stadiums or whatever the fuck, right?
Exactly.
Or theaters, because she lets that pendulum swing,
dude,
man.
The energy the pendulum doesn't care if it's positive or negative energy. Does not care.
Trump is a big deal because of his haters, for lack of a better word.
Dude, I mean,
the people who hate Trump are why Trump is what he is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like watching that, it totally clicked the book for me, because I was so into it when that happened. And like I woke up that morning, I asked my roommate at the time's girlfriend, I was like, who won the election? Because like, I'm allergic to politics. You know? I'm not really feeding that, because I went so far in the conspiracy wormhole. She was like Trump, and I was like, whatever. Fucking, I know you're joking. No, she's like, no, seriously. And I couldn't believe it, but it clicked. Like I was like, holy shit.
That's all we talked about.
Negative energy.
Yeah.
Momentum toward that pendulum, and it hits critical mass, and boom, like that's how it's done.
It does also kind of feel like when a dream gets so absurd that it wakes you up, so that's part of it. We needed to satirize.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right.
Cartoon sort of thing.
Yeah. One more time real quick, because I have to edit my other podcast. Where can everybody find you?
Okay, so Transurfing TV on YouTube, and you can find me everywhere at Bootsy Greenwood. And then please check out the International Transurfing Institute. We sound really, really professional. But that's a great place. We have discussion. Please don't bring your links in there. It's just a discussion place. It's like, it's kind of pretentious in a way, but, we're talking a lot in there and helping people try to understand the concepts and walk through it. You can check it out on transurfing.us as well. That's a website, where like there's some more information and stuff like that. But buy Vadim's books, check out my YouTube channel. For now, I've got the books up. So, Bootsy Greenwood on YouTube, and listen to those books. And I've got some videos and stuff on there as well. So that's where you can find me, Bootsy Greenwood, and Transurfing TV and the International Transurfing Institute. And thank you, Jess, for having me on your podcast.
Hell yeah. Thank you for being here. This is a great episode. Mostly because I was very funny and charming, but
I agree.
I carried it. I can be found at Jessa Reed Comedy. No, wait, just kidding. If you want to book a reading, go to jessareed.com. You can follow me at Jessa Reed Comedy on Twitter or Instagram. You can follow this podcast at Soberish Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Just follow it, and I'm never going to post anything ever, apparently. Don't forget to start Mormon and the Meth Head. Mormon and the Meth Head is very different than this. Sometimes we talk about the same subjects, but you get to hear me, you get to hear my unchecked psychosis bounced up against somebody with 2 feet on the ground. It's very interesting. But definitely, if you're into twin flames, you want to hear about attachment stuff, mental health stuff. Like, it's a fantastic podcast. It's very funny. Please start at the beginning. And I will see you next week on, I almost said Mormon and the Meth Head. Soberish. Bye.
Bye.